So what I want to do now is add a score to our game, a visualization of how well the player is doing. And there is a built-in variable that we're going to use called score, and then we're going to look at drawing stuff to the screen manually. Because underneath the hood, out of all of the things that we're doing already, anything that shows up on our level is being drawn. What we want to do is take a little bit of that power and draw things exactly where we want and how we want to do it. All right, so let's jump into that. Now, inside of the food, once again, when it gets destroyed, this is the best place to upgrade our score. So I'm going to go ahead and say ++ score. So score is a built-in variable, and it just keeps track of a number. You can use that number for really anything you want. Just because it says score doesn't mean you have to, but it is the score that we're going to use. So it starts at 0 when you begin the game, and we're just going to increase it every single time we gain food. Now, if we ran this, we wouldn't see anything because the score, it doesn't have any visual component yet. So we need to add something. So let's open up our snake, and I'm going to add a new event, and this is going to be a draw event. So inside here, we're going to draw score. And the first thing to know about draw events is you must, if your object has a sprite, you must say draw self. Because otherwise your sprite will not show up at all. Your object is there, but the draw event is inherently being called in every object that is in the game. And the first thing that it does is it draws itself to the level. Now, if we override the draw event like we just did, then we must say, hey, don't forget to draw yourself on the level. So if I say, take that out, and I run it, our object is still there. There goes the food, and now we are somewhere, but we have no idea where. So we're not trying to make the game that hard. So add in draw self, and then when we run it again, we will appear. I have made that mistake plenty of times, so be sure that you draw self if you ever put in a draw event, assuming you have a sprite. If you don't, and you try to draw self, I'll show you what happens. You'll get an error, because you cannot draw something that doesn't exist. That's a philosophical statement. I'm not going to worry too much about the implications of it. But if you do not have a sprite, then you cannot draw it. So, SPR snake, there we go, drawing self. Now, there is a whole host of drawing functions. We are going to stick to the simplest one, which is going to be draw _ text. Now, we pass in where we want to draw it and the string we want to draw. So I'm going to just draw it in the top left corner over here. I'm just going to say right around here. And so I'm going to put in 32, 32. That's going to be our X and our Y. And the string that we want to draw, well, we want to draw the score, all right? Now, draw text is a special function in that it will take whatever is passed in here and convert it to a string. We haven't had any in-depth conversation on data types because I don't want to get bogged down in that, but it is really important to understand that there are different types of data. This is an integer. It's just a whole number. That's really all that means. And score is also an integer, and it's expecting a string. And so normally, when you try and do something with a data type that's not allowed, you get an error, which just makes sense because if you're looking for the letter A in a number, well, it can't do that. It tries, it fails, it blows up. So data types are very important, but there are times that the functions will let you get away with doing other things. So putting our score in here, it's going to just show the number even though it says string. So I'm going to press F5 and it should show up right up here. There's our score. So every time we collect food, that will increase by 1. Of course, just having a number there, although fairly self-explanatory, we should probably put in what that number actually means. So I'm going to say player score colon plus score. Now, we are going to run into an error doing this. So I'm going to press F5 and show you the error that we get. This says do add execution error. This is an extremely frustrating error if you have not seen it before and you are not familiar with what that means. An execution error essentially means you've done something fundamentally wrong, like dividing by 0 or trying to say player score plus 0. GameMaker cannot do that. It doesn't understand what you want. So what we have to do is put these two data types in a way that they can be added together. So we can't convert this string to a number. That doesn't make any sense. But we can convert a number to a string. And there's a function for that called string. And you just pass in whatever value you want. Make sure you put it in those parenthetical marks. And then it will understand that what you actually want to do is not add two strings together to get like a value of 500 of like adding up all the ASCII values or something strange like that. No, it will understand that you just want to put this on the end of that. So when we run it again, now we have an explanation for what that number is. And voila, a basic introduction to data types and what you can do with them and what you cannot do with them. So that actually concludes our first game. You have made a clone, not a pure clone, but a heart clone of Snake. It's a really cool game, it's something fun, and now I encourage you to go and kind of make it your own. So the art we did is 2 blocks and an ellipse. Nothing too special there. But if you're artistic and you want to try your hand at that, go and make some sprites. Maybe increase the size of them. Play around with the room, the size of the room, and moving around it. There's a lot of things you can do even with just such a simple game. There are still a million variations that can be done in this game and probably will continue to be done in this game because it's just a classic game. But that concludes all the code we need to put into it. What I want to tackle next is how to export and build your game, to be able to share it with a friend as just a file they can click on and run it on their computer, and then they can play the game wherever they are. I'm going to show you how to do that next.